Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here. So, it is time for a good old Is It Platinum worthy review for Doom Dark Ages. So, this time things are going to be quite a bit different here. In the background gameplay, I'm just playing a random level, kind of progressing my platinum. So, seeing feeling things out. So, this review is going to be quite a bit more complicated than it usually is. So, first and foremost, I will be talking about trophies and whatnot, and there is a major bug, like a trophy has a major bug, but I'll be discussing that more towards the end of the video. So, keep in mind, first part, of course, is going to be spoiler-free, and then we're going to get into spoilers later. Now, first and foremost here, we're going to be discussing Doom Dark Ages in terms of 5 categories, but realistically 3 main categories and 2 subcategories. Those main categories are gameplay, music, and bosses, and the subcategories are weapons and story. In the bosses section, that's when I will be talking about environmental design and that sort of stuff, and enemy design. So that's where that'll be shoved into the bosses section. Now, first up, we're going to be talking about gameplay here. Also, do keep in mind in the music section is going to be a little bit more in depth, and I can articulate pretty well on why people feel a certain way about the music. And just coming from someone that plays music, I play cornet and a little bit of keyboard, or electric piano, if we're technical. But yeah, I'm mostly brass kind of guy. I have played some other brass instruments before, but I'm pretty familiar with music, as you could say. So, and also I'll be having examples for the music section. But first up, we are going to be discussing gameplay here, and in terms of gameplay, it is slower than Eternal. It just flat out is. No matter how much you speed up the game, it is slower than Eternal. The gameplay is a lot slower. It just is. It is faster, in my opinion, than 2016, though. But we'll get into that later. First off, let's talk about the shield. The shield here, the shield bash is nice, but I never really found myself using it. There's a little bit too much stuff going on for me personally, for me to really be focusing on using the shield that much, outside of like throwing the shield saw or parrying. I feel like the shield bash could have been like more interesting things could have been done with that. I would have rather had these shield runes being tied to something else other than a fucking parry. Because to me, personally, it seems a little inconsistent as far as there's no clear way to exactly tell when that ability will proc. Because sometimes that shield runes will proc back to back, but sometimes it just fucking won't. So that was a little bit difficult to tell whether or not it was going to activate. So I kind of just had to pray that it works. That it worked. Which, of course, I didn't really care for. So, outside of that, though, the shield runes are pretty good as far as they're pretty diverse. However, of course, I really only used one for the entire playthrough. Say with melee weapons, I only used the flail. The flail, to me personally, was probably the only useful one. Generally speaking, in video games, if you need to be at melee, if you're trying to melee, that melee needs to offer health, shield, or some semblance of survivability. This is why close range builds generally suck in Destiny 2, outside of a few exceptions. So, that's why the flail works pretty well, and that's why Blood Punch worked so well in Doom Eternal as well. So those are that. As far as weapon swapping goes, I think it's a little slow. I don't think you're incentivized nearly as often to swap weapons, which was a major issue I had with 2016. I accidentally, because Doom 2016 was my first Doom game, I didn't really know that, I cleared the entire 2016 using only the shotgun and the shotgun exclusively. And by the way, I did not really use the chainsaw that much either. But yeah, I literally cleared the entire thing with just BFG, of course, and the combat shotgun. Which is not a fun way to play the game. I thought it was pretty cool at the time, but when I really started swapping weapons, I was like, oh, this is actually a more fun way to play the game. And for Doom Eternal, it was way better. From my personal experience, it was way better to just swap weapons, not use the same weapon every time, use a mixture of abilities and whatnot. In this game, I think it's a little bit of an issue where you can basically just use 2 weapons the entire time. However, I went out of my way to have one weapon for a particular enemy or something like that. We'll say I wish weapon swapping was a little bit faster. Just a little bit faster to where if we want to play, swapping weapons, we are more free to do that. I will say, honestly, some a little bit hot takes, I am glad that there's, the grenades were removed, because kind of one of my issues with Doom Eternal was trying to swap grenades was a little bit of a pain in the ass on the controller specifically. I felt like that was a little bit too much, and I did feel like there was a little bit too much ability spam as far as grenades, like your grenades, blood punch, and if I remember correctly, there was something. Oh yeah, the Sentinel Hammer as well in the DLCs. So yeah, I appreciate that some of that stuff was mitigated here, but the actual weapon play was sacrificed massively. Speaking of weapons, we're going to go on to our first mini section. So keep in mind for gameplay, it's definitely worse than Eternal, but it is far better than 2016 in my opinion. In terms of the actual weapon specifically, the Super Shotgun received that massive downgrade. The meat hook is just so good. Doom Eternal has the best Super Shotgun. And in my personal opinion, even in terms of feel, I think 2016 has a better Super Shotgun than Doom Dark Ages does. I would say the combat shotgun I actually like more in 2016 as well. That being said, though, the Skull Shredder I think is a pretty fun weapon to use. Practicality, not really there very much. Here's what I will say. Fully upgraded shotgun. I think Doom Dark Ages has the best rocket launcher. Sorry, I meant rocket launcher. Eternal's rocket launcher is pretty good, but you don't really use any of the mods when you're using it. In Doom 2016, Lock On was my personal thing. I just used Lock On. But being close range with the rocket launcher, I felt like the rocket launcher just worked so well in this game. It just works well. I will say I disagree with the grenade launcher being there. I wish that would have been kept to Quake. I feel like this game steps on Quake's toes a little bit. Just keep Quake a separate thing so you can maybe revive that. Maybe revive Quake at some point down the line. Maybe? Please? Also, the Cycler, I believe that's what it's called. The plasma rifle with the 2 little miniguns. That's also kind of ripped Quake in a way, but I thought this was a decently okay weapon. The whole shock thing, I feel like it was an attempt at elemental stuff, but it was just so lackluster. It was so lackluster. You could not really make use out of it at all without there being a beefy target, and then you have to train it to mini target, to other smaller targets. Now, something else I do want to mention here. The chain gun and the assault rifle being missing, it makes sense, but man, do you feel it. Man, their presence is sorely missed. As a whole, and also the BFG is called the BFC in this game, but I'm not really going to be discussing that very much. It works the exact same. I'm feeling different to it. I'll say the Crucible Sword being missing here doesn't make any sense lore-wise either, because the Doomslayer killed the Titan with the Crucible Sword, so I don't really get why it's not in this game. And I felt like maybe it could have been an alternative option to the shield. You could have the shield or the Crucible Sword. Crucible maybe not necessarily one-shotting things, or maybe give an Atlas a giant Crucible Sword, because I'm kind of segueing to mechs here and stuff, but the Dragon sections were okay. I have nothing really much to say about it. But the mech sections, the only really fun one was the shotgun one. The shotgun one was so good, but the rest were kind of just, they were alright. And I'll get into one particular section later. But yeah, in terms of weapons, it's really tough because 2016 has the second best super shotgun, but the rest of the weapons for 2016 are kind of just there because of so much ammo. And this game has a massive problem with too much ammo. I would rather this game have given you a lot more health or shield and way less ammo. Way less ammo. So that, you know, you were more incentivized to use some of the other weapons, but not necessarily required to. I guess the different caveat to that is there's no chainsaw. But I'm also kind of like, there's a ton of ammo just laying about. Ton of ammo just laying the fuck about. But I think, generally speaking, weapon-wise, I think I would have to put Doom Dark Ages a little bit below Eternal, specifically because the Eternal Super Shotgun is just flat out better. The PB and chain gun being missing here, you feel it. And I will say the Plasma Rifle is just also better in Eternal. You'll also say it's just flat out better in Eternal. And also the Arbalest is such a missing addition. It's just oof. But this game also doesn't really have a unique super weapon, which was a little bit... I was kind of expecting one, maybe. Besides the weapon that I cannot mention yet. However, you know, that's going to be that. Also, the last little bit for weapon skins is... the skins are absolutely awful in this game. None of them look good. None of them look good. You basically get a Reverent, which is just a slightly different version of the base weapon. You have a Conqueror version, which is just the weapon with gold accents. And then you have the Conqueror, which is a awful looking gold. It looks horrible. None of the skins in this game look good, except for the Silver Doomslayer. But obviously, I am a sucker for a Silver Doom guy. So, but like, all the weapon skins look absolutely awful in this game. I will say, as a whole, this game doesn't look as good as Eternal, and that was the biggest surprise to me. HDR is broken in this game, but obviously, if you're new to the channel here, most games have a broken HDR upon release. The only ones that really haven't are Elden Ring and Stellar Blade, I believe, did not have a broken HDR. But Sparking Zero's HDR is still broken on PC. I think they fixed it on PS5, but Dark Ages is obviously broken. What you're seeing right now is the quote-unquote fixed HDR. I'll be explaining that in a future, like, actual episode of Dark Ages. However, now we're going to be moving here. I'm going to be passing it over to regular, you know, good old IRL me. I'll be able to get to see my lovely face for a brief period as I discuss the music of Doom Dark Ages. Hello everyone, this is good old IRL me. We're going to be talking about the music of Dark Ages here. So I have 4 things for you to listen to. I'm not going to showcase the 4th yet, but I will be explaining why maybe the music you might not deem as being as good. I took pieces that were generally similar or the most popular. For example, this is the most popular piece from Doom Dark Ages soundtrack by a long shot. Obviously, I have Super Gore Nest here because, in my personal opinion, the only thing they fear is you is a little bit different. It's a little bit too different than what this is. So I think Super Gore Nest is going to be able to articulate a difference here. And then BFG Division, I chose for 2 reasons. One, it is the most popular by a long shot. It has 50 million views. But I also chose it because of a similar theme here. And that last one up there, I'll be saving because also I will say I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video, but if you expect me to glaze any of the 3 Doom games, don't really expect me to. If you expect me to rip on all 3 games all the time, don't expect me to do that either. I'll try to give as many positives for each soundtrack as I can, but obviously we're going to be mostly focusing on the differences, not necessarily negative or positive. So I'm going to play a little bit of this here, By the way, this is how I mute my mic in the back here, so y'all can hear the piece for yourself. This is Unchained Predator. We're gonna listen to the first 30 seconds. I actually lied. We're gonna be skipping around a little bit, but the build-up is good. The build-up is good. It introduces the main kind of, because usually with the Doom track, there's like a main little melody, and you have the do 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 do. You have that stuff there. But I more so want to get into when everything is there. It takes a little bit of while to build up. Dun, 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 dun. Notice how you can barely hear the actual melody. Now I want to just play Super Gornest here. Just notice the difference. First off, if he had headphones in, this is crazy. This piece gets right into it, so I'm not really comparing it to the only thing that appears here. There's already a major difference there. Put it down in the comments below. What difference do you notice? So I'll play these again. Outside of the mixing between the ears. Which, by the way, man, that helps so massively in Doom Eternal. The main melody. Okay, so there, and then notice what we have here. Okay, so the difference there, at least that I hear, and I'm sure some of you probably caught it, it's way messier. It's way messier. If you notice, you can hear each distinct part in here. You can hear each distinct part. Obviously, exempting what side of the headset it's on. You hear the top part as well. The falls. You really only hear three parts. You hear the top falls, you hear the main riff, and then you hear the drums. That's all you hear. That's all you need to hear. That's all you need to hear. Meanwhile, with Unchained Predator, I feel like it's over-engineered and it's not really well mixed. To me, it hears as everything is the same volume, and it's not easy to distinctly, it's not as easy to differentiate between everything. Now, of course, some things you don't want to be heard. For instance, when I did the Eminem parody, My Hunter's Gone Crazy, I have breathing underneath. That's supposed to be a drone. And also, under the Make It Last section, I have me singing in a low voice, but that's supposed to be a drone. You're not supposed to hear that. It's just supposed to smooth things out a little bit. But you hear a drum, the main melody question mark, and you hear like a fuck ton of what seems like echo. It seems like there's a fuck ton of echo or something, which is kind of dirtying things and it's not making everything as crisp. And I feel like the do like that should be clear and that should be the top. Um, and it's not a real strong counter melody. It just feels like there's a lot going on, and there's not really much of like a counter thing going on. Like for obviously Super Gornas, you have a call and response thing going on. So you have the call, response. So you have a lot of, which is honestly something that's used in a lot of wide variety of music, but I mostly learned this during jazz band. So in school I took jazz band for like 6 years, and I was in band for 6 as well. Oh, because I think I was in jazz band 1 year less. No, I was in band for 6 years. In jazz band for 5, right? Or am I tripping? Am I tripping is the question. Is my brain going kaput right now? Jazz band for 6 years, band in general for 7. Yeah, band in general for 7, and jazz band for 6. But mostly we talked a lot about, especially in the high school stuff, talked about the various different techniques, and that's where I learned there's a few techniques in jazz that makes things like solos memorable, and it translates over to making music as a whole memorable. One is call and response. This is also was used most recently, as far as I know, in Kendrick's "Not Like Us," uh, with the whole little hook thing at the end. Like, hold up, where are you from? Where are you from? Calling, the call and the response. So call and response was used in that track as well. It's a little bit of ways to get your audience to interact with the piece. Um, so yeah, that's of course Super Gore Nest. Now you might be saying, well, Mick already had experience with this game at this point. And to that, I introduce our third contestant, BFG Division. Now, I have it on this specific section because I am going to move Unchained Predator forward. Also, as you can see, I'm recording this at not even 11 o'clock in the morning. But this is where I'm going to move here. I'm not really going to be talking about the bridges in any of these songs because the bridges is mostly used to to lower you down a little bit so that you can reach another peak. Uh, So we're gonna move quite far along this piece. Again, it feels like there's a lot going on, which more going on doesn't mean it's better. Trying to move past the bridge. I like this section because it drops out everything. There's basically no difference between this and the first one. Except this sounds slightly cleaner than some of the other sections in here. And it no longer sounds clean. Now, this was obviously Mick Gordon's first Doom game. The previous game he worked on, I believe, was Killer Instinct. But you can hear everything so clearly and so cleanly. And everything is a lot shorter. Every little thing is shorter. Once you get a long thing. And see, in the background, you have the siren going a little bit louder and louder and louder. And every time you hear, Mick do the wah with the guitar or whatever, there's nothing in between it. There's nothing in between there. One of the most important things in music that I don't think Finishing Move really understood with Doom Dark Ages is the silence in between stuff is just as important. Is just as important. And I'm more going to be discussing that when we look at the fourth piece here. But silence is just as important as everything. Do not clutter your piece of music with a bunch of shit. That like you can hear everything so distinctly. I will say the way they use the headset is crazy, and that's not something Finishing Move did. I'm not saying it's done well here, but Doom Eternal does do that phenomenally. Silence right there. Silence right there. That's to give you anticipation. This is used expertly well in a lot of Soulsborne pieces. If you want to hear the perfect example of silence and lack of multiple parts going on, if you want to hear the absolute perfect, it is my favorite piece in all of Soulsborne, listen to Gehrman's theme. Gehrman from Bloodborne, listen to his theme. It is the perfect iteration of what I'm talking about. I'll say also Lawrence Differ's Vicar is great. When you have Soulsborne music doing the two duo instruments, it just leads up. When you have that big explosion, it absolutely enhances the experience. Because your brain is starting to like calm down, it's getting used to the two notes, and then you're just hit with the whale of just absolute perfection. So that you're ready for it to go ham again. Your brain's waiting for this. And I want to point out another little thing here. I do apologize for me stopping it so much. If you want to hear the actual piece, go check out this piece of music for yourself. But notice when you hear the doodle doodle doo, everything drops out. Everything drops out except for the drum. So you have the do do you do you do you do. When you have that doodle doodle doo, everything drops out. So I just want you to pay attention to that. Drops out. It's more so the drums drop out. And you have the counter melody on top. There's a decent amount going on, but everything is so distinct. Now, I want to zoom in on Kite a little bit. Now you have subharmonics going. You have harmonics going on with the top part. That's quieter. Not clutter the piece necessarily. Like, it has such a good, great groove! But obviously, then you have this. You know what I mean? That it sounds dirty? Like, it sounds messy. Now, this is where, this is where we go ham. This is where we go ham. This is where we go ham. This is where my boy, Jeffrey Day, please check this man out. Please check this man out. I almost stood, but I forgot my camera's on. But man, Jeffrey Day did such a good job with this piece, and this was the piece of music that I was talking about when I said this is the part that this is the music that my brain is listening to when I'm playing the game. Even if the music's not playing, my brain registers that this is going on. I will iterate it on future like episodes of Doom Dark Age that you all are gonna see, but already cleaner, already cleaner. Nothing really going on. Not that much going on. And by the way, this is Jeffrey Day has done a great job of introducing you to the little thing here. Jeffrey Day is doing a great job at already introducing the rhythm. Something that a lot of like music will do to really like get you into the groove of things, especially on a repeat listen, is it introduces you to the main theme early, to the main thing early. The pauses, do pa da 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 da. The pauses, the pauses are the best part. And now you want to know what the next part sounds like. You want to know what the next part sounds like. I know you're just itching to hear what that next part sounds like because you've already been introduced to all of the previous elements that your mind is already like, okay, all this is gonna come together in a slapping. There's an absolute slap fest here, and it does. And you have that drone there, but it doesn't interrupt the main groove at all. It's below the main groove. Okay, but obviously, if you want to listen to the rest of this song, which I definitely recommend you check it out, it is by Jeffrey Day. Definitely go check him out. Uh, Jeff Plays Guitar is his YouTube thing. He did music for Atomic Heart. Some of my favorite pieces are actually like Trava u Doma, and he also did he did some other stuff as well. Um, so yeah, this Veil of Eternal Night, Nosferatu he did here, absolutely fantastic. Definitely go check him out. And in my opinion, when it comes to doing vocals, I think he is the best in the business as far as fusing metals and vocals like together. Mick, I think, does a better job of like getting you into like into aggression mode, and I think Jeffrey Day does a better job at getting you to like a I'm just gonna sit here and listen. I'm gonna sit here and listen and groove. So yeah, I will say I'm not too familiar with the other Dark Ages stuff, but yeah, this is the piece that plays the most. Keep in mind, I did not play The Only Thing They Fear Is You. Obviously, I'm not even going to discuss Doom E1M1, which was a massive disappointment that it was not really in this game. To start things off, it was tradition. It was tradition at this point. But yeah. However, though, on that note, though, that is me discussing the music of this game. I'm not really gonna I can't. Obviously, if you like Doom Dark Ages music, I understand. I was expecting something massively different. I was kind of hoping for more medieval stuff to be in this, like, um, similar to like, I don't know what the exact genre is called, but it's like medieval metal. I'm not completely sure what that genre is specifically called, but I thought it was going to be something more akin to that, or like a Doomified, toss a coin to your Witcher or Doomified Soulsborne music. I was assuming it'd be closer to that, but this was just not it. Here's what I will say. In terms of music, I think Dark Ages is the worst in the franchise. I think the soundtrack is the worst in the franchise. However, Doom has had historically good music. I'm not counting Doom 3. I've never played Doom 64. I only played the beginning of Doom 3 until, whatever. The main theme is just so good. I will say Doom Dark Ages has the worst main theme by a long shot. Because man, the Doom 3 opening is ooh, if you haven't heard that, sheesh, that's like that to me is some good stuff. I would say Doom 3 could be below Doom Dark Ages, but it's not better than Doom 2016. It is not better than Doom Eternal. I don't think it's anywhere close. I'll say Doom 1 has better music than this as well. Um so yeah, there's me talking about the music. I'm gonna pass y'all back over to editing me. So I can finish up the good old review. All right, now that I have discussed music with y'all, um, now it's going to be time to discuss story as a little bit of a minor section. Now, as far as story goes, it's all right. It's pretty good. I don't really have many qualms with it per se, from an overarching story perspective. Um, I think this is where one of two cases can't be made for Doom 2016 being better or Eternal being better. I think really how you feel about the story is really going to be up to interpretation on this one. It's really going to be how you feel about story in a Doom game, if you like it, if you don't. There's way more cutscenes in here. I don't. You can skip them easily, which I believe was not. I believe in Doom Eternal you could not skip cutscenes on a first playthrough, if I remember correctly. You can in this one. If I remember correctly, I think it took a while for them to add the ability to skip cutscenes. But generally speaking, I didn't have too many issues with the story. Again, I'm not really gonna discuss spoilers yet. Keep in mind, we're gonna discuss non-spoiler stuff first, and then we're gonna cycle back to story and bosses, enemy design, world design, that sort of stuff. We're gonna cycle. That's how we're gonna segue into that. But as far as some other things in story is, this is the first time where I feel like certain pathways were just not thought about, not that well written per se. I feel like they overcomplicated things a little bit too much to the point where it seemed like they were setting up some things that would actually go literally nowhere. That would just not go anywhere. And that was a pretty massive disappointment. Because at least with Doom Eternal, the story was definitely like secondary to the combat, but it didn't feel like you were missing anything or you weren't reaching for stuff. In Doom 2016, I think it's probably my least favorite story-wise. I did not find whatever Elizabeth or whatever her fucking name is, I found her to be annoying, like really annoying, and I felt like she was kind of irrelevant. I don't know. I just didn't like 2016 story very much at all. Eternals was pretty good. Pretty good. It wasn't really until the DLCs that story really picked up. I will say though, I never really cared about story for a Doom game. And Dark Ages, I think it's just I don't know. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. If I were forced to put things somewhere, I would say Doom Eternal 1. Okay, I would say Doom Dark Ages and Doom Eternal tied for very different reasons. And then I would say Doom... You know, I'll put Dark Ages at number 1, Doom Eternal at a very close number 2, and then Doom 2016 a decent amount of ways below that, but below both of them. But I think you could argue for 2016 being better. Speaking of Doom 2016 being better, let's talk about bosses. The bosses in this game are very lackluster. There is only... I think the final boss is the only true unique boss, except for one that you fight as a mech. You fight like a boss as a mech. That is unique. But if I remember correctly, that is the only one that does not reappear as a mini-boss later on. So with Doom 2016, it had 3, from what I am remembering. It had Cyber Demon, Hellguards, and I think Cellguards reappeared one other time, but I think they reappeared as a boss. Hellguards, I think, are a completely unique boss, and then the final one being the Spider Mastermind. So I believe that game had, because I don't believe the Cyber Demon really appeared again. I don't think it appeared again. But in the Doom Eternal, there were 3 as well. There was Gladiator, Con Maker, and Icon of Sin. Those 3 bosses are nowhere outside of their quote-unquote arenas. But in this game, okay, there's actually a decent amount. Oh, how do I put this in a particular way where I don't spoil shit? There's really 2. There's really 2 unique bosses. Because the final boss has three phases, and then the final boss is basically two phases, but one of them is a mech fight, and it doesn't really have enough substance to it to really be a boss fight. So in my opinion, there's really only two unique boss fights, and you fight the mech boss in a different way later, like earlier. Okay, let's discuss a little bit on my like my overarching thing for this. So, in terms of where I would put this, I would put Doom Dark Ages at the bottom. I would put Doom Eternal in second place, and then I would put Doom 2016 in number 1. In my opinion, Doom 2016 has the best bosses. I think the Cyber Demon is an absolutely fantastic boss, and in my opinion, I think the Hellguards is a great boss fight as well. I think the Spider Mastermind is alright for what it is. I think the biggest issue with Doom Eternal, the Gladiator boss was the best boss in my opinion, but Conmaker was extremely monotonous, and I wasn't a huge fan of the Icon of Sin either. I wasn't that big of a fan of the Icon of Sin boss fight. By the way, I am not considering the DLCs when doing this. Doom 2016 has no DLC, and Doom Dark Ages has no DLC at this moment, but it's already known that we're getting one. So, there's that. Now, before I cycle back, some more spoiler-free stuff. In terms of enemy design, there is a new Baron. Obviously, I'm not going to be showing any of the new stuff necessarily. I'm not going to be showing the new stuff. I think the mini bosses are pretty cool in Doom Dark Ages, but it's not easy to compare. I think, of course, Doom 2016 has the best Cyber Demon design, but I do think that Dark Ages has a better design than Eternal does. The Eternal Tyrant design looked goofy as fuck, in my opinion. I didn't really like it. I will say the Prowler, I think, looks the best because it scared me a few times. Earlier on, kind of at the later, like, quarter of the levels of the chapters, I was no longer really scared of it, but it was pretty spooky. The Imps, this is where I think 2016 can really take some leaps and bounds for a lot of people. I think 2016 has the best Baron of Hell design, still by a long shot. And in my opinion, I prefer 2016's Imps. In terms of Mancubi, the Cyber Mancubus from Eternal is my favorite. The Mancubus from Doom Eternal is my favorite. It's unfortunate that the Cyber Mancubus kind of took a little bit of a downhill turn, but it does make sense because they're not going to have the UAC technology to really input into things. I will say in terms of mini-bosses here, comparing them to Eternal, Marauder is probably the best thing that they've came up with. Also, the Doom Hunter is really solid too. When the Doom Hunter is out in the field, you have to pay attention to his ass. And of course, I'm not really counting DLC stuff right now, because I like to compare DLC to DLC. When this game gets DLC, will I play it? Probably. I don't know, but I probably will. Depends on, how well Doom Dark Ages as a whole does on this channel. But the Spider one is alright. It's like a spider. It's a Spider Tar? Spider Centaur? However you want to call it. A Tech Quelaag. I thought it was alright, especially with the chain shot weapon, which was pretty cool. The rest of them are kind of just there, and when they make their boss appearance, the music does not do them any service. like, man, and they felt weak. I have beaten all 3 games on Ultra Violence, and I will say, by far, Doom Dark Ages bosses felt way easier than comparatively to the rest of the enemies and encounters. Obviously, Doom Dark Ages is easier than Eternal, but I'm saying in compared to the rest of it, the bosses felt like they were just another enemy. Or they were like a Mancubus or something like just a regular enemy that you didn't really have to pay much attention to. I do like the totem system, side note. Meanwhile, in Doom Eternal, the Marauder was a pain in the ass because you couldn't one-shot it with the BFG because you didn't have it yet. Which, by the way, yes, you can one-shot the Marauder with the BFG. But the Doom Hunter felt like an actual proper boss fight, which was absolutely fantastic. But that's kind of what I'm going to say about that. Now, how do I want to handle this? Now, I'm going to discuss spoilers for a little bit. If y'all want to skip ahead, do I recommend it necessarily? No. But I'm getting into spoilers here and now. I'm not really going to give like a timestamp or anything because I have no fucking idea. I'm going to bleed in some other review stuff. But here, I'm going to talk light spoilers. Keep in mind, I'm not doing heavy spoilers. I'm going to talk about where certain characters, where they necessarily end up. But there is a major spoiler that I will not say here. But it's in the codexes. Now, first off, story-wise, the witch doesn't amount to anything. She's a part of Ozrak's final boss, because you fight Ozrak on his own first, and then you fight the witch and Ozrak together. And then the old one is like the Cthulhu thing we saw in the trailer. It is a mech fight, but the Cthulhu is half mechanized or something like that. It's not a good boss fight. It just isn't. It's kind of boring. I don't think the mech really has any it's not complex enough gameplay wise to really feel good as a boss fight. The Creed Maker was a pretty solid boss fight. I thought it was a pretty good boss fight. I thought it was pretty alright. Now, in terms of demon design and area design, I think Doom Dark Ages has the best general level design. Like, not level design, but like visually. I think visually, the art style of Doom Dark Ages is the best. The Cosmic Realm was so cool. It reminded me of my first time seeing Urdak in Doom Eternal. Hell looked pretty great. It looked pretty good as well. The whole Sentinel cities and whatnot looked pretty cool, pretty sick. Reminded me of World Spear quite a bit. So yeah, I would say Doom Dark Ages is definitely number one in terms of area design, and then like Doom Eternal number two. Then Doom 2016 I don't like, because the game can be boiled down to black, brown, and red, and beige, different varying shades of brown. That's pretty much the vibe. That's pretty much can be described to that color palette can be used to describe the large majority of Doom 2016, which is not something that I liked. Now, in terms of enemy design, the new Cacodemon looked pretty cool. The regular Cacodemon is not in the game. The regular Baron is not in the game. Instead, you have a Cosmic Baron, which looks cool. And I would put it above Eternal if not for the Armored Baron, which I think is fucking sick. I think it's fucking sick. And tops even my Doom 2016. We're talking about base game to base game. Cosmic Baron is pretty cool. I will say, in some ways, a little bit more lackluster than its Eternal counterpart, but still pretty solid nonetheless. Those are the only two enemy types, except for there's a completely brand new one, which sounds a copy of itself. I did not really find it fun to fight. I found it pretty annoying to try to fight it. Similar to a Prowler, but not really. But it was kind of just alright. Also, something that I'm going to point out here is the Arachnotron. The Arachnotron Eternal has its best counterpart. It has a better counterpart, because you never see the Arachnotron in Dark Ages really climb anything. In Eternal, sometimes that bitch would jump up onto a fucking wall. Sometimes it would be on the fucking ceiling, which was kind of scary. But unfortunately, I never saw the Arachnotron really do that. So yeah, that's kind of all we're going to talk about in terms of the MacGuffin being the Doom Gout or whatever. I feel like not enough was done with that. But if you read the codexes at the end of the game, something about the Icon of Sin is revealed, and I thought that was pretty cool. I'm not really expecting it to go anywhere though. So yeah, that's all I'm going to talk about as far as spoilers goes. Of course, I'm not showing anything, just in case people just want to hear it and they are excited themselves to go see it. Now, time to wrap things up here. Okay. Let's talk about the Platinum. The Platinum is pretty easy to do. A lot of stuff you have to do in one single run. I'm really happy that they removed the online aspect of it, because that's one of the reasons why I cannot complete the Doom Eternal Platinum is because of battle mode, and I refused to do it. It requires some battle mode stuff, which I don't really like. It doesn't require Nightmare, with that, which I thought, but it requires battle mode, and I don't really want to do that. So I never went for Eternals Platinum because I refused to do battle mode. Now, also, unfortunately, you saw some screenshots of stuff here and there, but, you know, don't worry, I don't go into any of the Cosmic levels. Actually, the level I'm going to be going into in the background gameplay is actually the BFG level, because I was missing some stuff there. Now, some other stuff here. That's not to say that Doom Dark Ages doesn't have a trophy issue either. There is a bugged trophy. The bugged trophy of getting all shield runes, and melee upgrades. That thing is bugged. It is bugged because you have to do it all in one go for it to count. You have to do it all in one go in order to do it. Which, saving up the amount of gold needed for that is kind of ridiculous. If I end up going out of my way to get the rest of the trophies done, then I might... You have to complete a new... You have to do a brand new save. I'll probably just put it on the absolute easiest difficulty, so I could just stomp my way through everything and gather enough gold to get the trophy done. Apparently, ID Software has had a history of really not doing anything like when these sort of situations come up. Apparently, this happened with Doom 2016, where one of the trophies was not completable, but it took them ages to fix it. So I really hope they actually do fix it, based on what I saw on some forums. Somebody had put in a thing with Bethesda, and their response was, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" It's like, yeah. So that trophy's massively bugged. I hope that they fix it, because that would be fantastic, and it would make getting the platinum a little bit better. Now on to the question: is this game platinum worthy? And what score would I give it? And the answer is platinum worthy. I'll say yes. I think it's platinum worthy. The platinum's easy enough. I think Doom Dark Ages is platinum worthy. Now, as far as the score, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I had an alright time. If you really want to have an absolutely fantastic time, my advice is turn the music off and then put on a mix of Doom Eternal, Doom 2016, like put on your favorite Doomified even soundtrack, and you'll have an absolute blast playing this game. Listening to that music with everything else, you'll have an absolute blast. I think the music definitely drags down this game. I think it's mostly mediocre until boss fights, and it's really noticeable with boss fights specifically that the music is just not good. But generally speaking, it's not like super awful or anything. But yeah, I give Doom Dark Ages a 7 out of 10. Apologize for the lengthy review. I kind of wanted to go in depth on this review. In terms of the past games that I have, is it platinum worthy? Is it as platinum worthy as Stellar Blade? Absolutely not. In no way, shape, or form is it anywhere close to Stellar Blade. But it's definitely more platinum worthy than first Berserker Kazan, in my opinion, too. This is the first FPS that I have, is it platinum worthy on this channel. So I hope y'all like it. Let me know in the comments below what y'all thought of Doom Dark Ages, how y'all feel about everything. And so on that note, though, thanks for tuning in, and I will catch y'all on the flip side.